Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new episode of CAFÉ LACChain, where we will deep into a very exciting topic for NGOs and for those who want to support the cause of their choice in a truly innovative way through the use of blockchain. Today, we are joined by Jaydeep Kaur, founder and CEO of Launch Notes, Gerben Kigne, blockchain product lead at Giga-Unicef, and Mariana Kotik, CCO of LACNet. Thank you very much to the three of you for joining us. And thank you for taking this topic closer to our audience. And I would like to start with you, Jaydeep. So as you can please explain us how Lido Impact Staking powered by Launch Notes, how does it works and what specific challenges it aims to address and what type of projects it has already benefited?
Sure. Thank you, Blanca. So Lido Impact Staking, we think is useful because it's really simple. Staking is the mechanism by which Ethereum is secured. So people put their capital on, and on nodes, people put their capital on, and those nodes validate transactions and secure the network. And that generates a yield. And as Ethereum grows and becomes what we think it will be as a general purpose technology, then using that yield to fund social impact in the form of connecting schools, which Herben will talk about a little bit later, planting trees and funding direct cash transfers, seemed an obvious thing for us to try and do when we founded the company in 2020. And so that's what we've been doing. And we have built the staking mechanism on top of Lido because Lido is extremely liquid. It has the largest staking companies in the world behind it doing the technology, as well as community stakers, as well as leveraging what's called distributed validator technology with the likes of OBOL and SSV. So it takes care of the technology, it provides the liquidity, and it's a super easy, simple user interface. And so you take your staking return or your capital and you plant it on Lido, and you point between 1 or 100% of your profit in terms of returns, staking returns, and we call them rewards, to plant trees, connect schools, or any other cause that might be on and using the mechanism. And I think sort of just to wrap up, what is it and why is it easy? It is designed to be very, very straightforward, and it's straightforward for both an impact staker who supports planting trees or connecting schools, but it's also easy for an NGO to sign up and start using it. The critical mechanism here is that you're supporting charitable giving and donation to fund social impact without giving your money away. You're giving your opportunity cost of the staking reward. I don't know if that's simple or I made it more complicated.
But... No, yeah, it was really insightful. Thank you, Jaydeep. I don't know if you can share with us like a quick example of how you're using it, like in a case.
Yeah, so I won't steal Herben's thunder, but we're lucky enough to be partnering with Giga-Unicef and the UNICEF Venture Fund. We're also working with Mercy Court Ventures. We're working with UNHCR and Give Directly. And these organizations, to varying degrees, have super atomic impact data that matches the money that's being sort of sent to them through staking rewards and returns through to they can demonstrate this is what we're doing with it. This is how it's being used. And so I think it draws a light to their work because ultimately we're just a clever new money pipe. The work is being done by the likes of Herben and other organizations on LACNet and other organizations that we don't quite serve yet, but hopefully will watch this and decide they want to join.
Thank you, Jaydeep. And let me build on that point so as to hear from you, Gerben Kigne from Giga-Unicef, so as to know what is the main challenge NGOs face when it comes to fundraising, and how has your organization leveraged the impact staking model to advance in its mission?
Right. Well, thanks for having me on, Blanca. So I think for most NGOs, including ours, one of the main challenges that we face is sustainability. So we've had numerous cases in which we've managed to raise funding in collaboration with Partners Inc. To connect schools and sort of pay for the one-time cost for doing that. But what's often lacking is the ability to sort of keep a connectivity alive. You can imagine that there are sort of monthly internet bills to be paid, and those can often be more than can be sustained by a school directly. Impact staking really sort of allows us to sort of shift that model. As Jaydeep said, crypto holders can keep their original principal and they only donate the staking returns. So it provides a more sort of predictable form of funding for school connectivity. We've managed to sort of pilot this successfully in Rwanda, where the staking rewards have paid for connectivity for one sort of pilot school. So we know that this model can work. The next challenge is about sort of scaling this up. And where we also think that school connectivity is particularly interesting is also, as to what Jaydeep said, the impact is very sort of traceable. We're connecting a school to the internet, so that means that it's digitally traceable whether that's been done or not. So it makes sense for us to explore using digital currencies that keep this auditing trail completely clear. Yeah.
That brings great clarity to the topic. Thank you, Gerben. And I would like to bring in another perspective from Mariana Kotik, CCO from LACNet, and so as to know what role does LACNet play to help NGOs achieve a verifiable impact, and how do you think it can reflect on donations?
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Blanca. And it's an honor to be sharing this space with you. Actually, at LACNet, our role is to provide the trusted blockchain infrastructure that NGOs and social impact organizations can use to record and verify their impact on chain. So why this is important? Because impact is measurable and verifiable on chain, and that becomes a form of guarantee, a proof that donations are actually being transformed into a real result in the world. So as has been mentioned before, sustainability is a challenge, but even I think for large and well-known NGOs, it might not seem as urgent as for the smaller ones, because like large NGOs have a reputation that they have been building for decades, and it's already built. But for smaller projects, even when they are doing an excellent work on the ground, it's much harder to build trust with donors. Let's keep in mind that the biggest risk we all face in this area is that bad actors claiming impact they cannot actually prove could undermine the credibility of so many good and solid projects out there. So, but putting impact data on chain, we create a transparent and verifiable layer of accountability. I think that's we can that's what we can provide to these kind of projects.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mariana, because I think the audience might agree that hearing from both the NGO and the infrastructure sides give us like a fuller picture. And all this opens up another important question I would like to address, and is directed to you, Jaydeep, from Launch Notes, so as to know what challenges do you face when combining blockchain infrastructure with impact goals, and how has Launch Notes addressed them?
I think Mariana made a number of excellent points about the challenges, because the really big organizations have really powerful brands that allow donor relationships to form and get supported. But for smaller projects and innovative projects that could use this mechanism natively, how do they get that credibility? And I think that the on-chain piece will help. I hope that the likes of UNICEF and Urban's work, Giga, will also help smaller organizations say, oh, well, you know, we're doing what UNICEF do it. And I think from the donor perspective, our first institutional donor is the GSR Foundation, who are a really innovative organization looking at it from the donor or impact staker perspective. And I think the challenges are numerous, and it's difficult working with massive global large international NGOs and multilaterals, but it's also difficult for them to understand us crazy technologists coming up with new ideas that we all know, crypto has a bad reputation, and some of that is very legitimate. So I think working together is the way you solve some of the problems that Mariana talked about, but also having all parts of the puzzle there. So having the likes of institutional donors now who can be a voice and say, well, actually, we think this is really important and this is really useful, allows all of us to learn and collaborate, whilst certainly the patterns that we've developed with UNICEF, which a lot of them are open source, are now there and available for any organization to take. I'd be interested to know what you think, Herman, about those other challenges as well.
Yes, I think most of the challenge is actually to increase awareness, like for people to know how to apply technology that it might seem a little bit hard for them to understand, as you actually said. And this is why we made this type of episode, so as to sensibilize everyone and to make knowledge approachable to people. And we are all in this together, as you said, multilaterals, and we as private entities and NGOs. And yeah, I think we all have to add some part of our experience or our knowledge, so as to become with great results as expected. And thank you for your answer, JJ. It's really inspiring, and I believe it sets the stage for a perfect moment to hear from Gerben Kigne from Giga, and to know more about your perspective, and to know what opportunities do you see for more nonprofit organizations to join Web3 initiatives like this, and how has this model helped you diversify and expand your funding sources?
Right. So, JD, when you were speaking, I was reminded of that time that I think we presented at DEF CON in Bogota, and we presented this concept of this initial pilot in Rwanda in front of this crowd of like crypto native nerds, and everybody was staring at us like, "What's the big deal? Why is this so complicated?" But the complicated part sort of happens next, right? It's like, okay, you generate some of this magic internet money, and now what? Like, are you actually allowed to spend it? What's the regulation around this? Who's having custody over this? How are they accepting that? So a lot of the sort of the regulatory work after that is a big challenge. When we talk about how does this help us diversify and expand funding sources? I mean, for now, it's really a sort of a small pilot that we're hoping to scale up. But I think there are two sort of really big opportunities for us. The first is very importantly that it provides transparency. So it lets donors see where the funds go. I think that's something that, Mariana, you mentioned that trust for big organizations is important. And UNICEF certainly has a lot of that. But I think more and more younger generations are sort of demanding more than just, a nice postcard at Christmas saying thank you for your donation. They want to see a little bit more than that. So I think UNICEF is keen to sort of experiment with that direction as well. The second part is that the barrier to entry to support is much lower. In sort of traditional finance and traditional partnerships that we operate, we work with very sort of high numbers. There's a lot of sort of operational overhead in signing contracts and accepting funding for donors and doing KYC and sort of making sure that all of that is done properly. So it's very difficult for people who support something like Giga to just donate a little bit to the cause. So this is certainly made possible by something like this staking. You can participate with as little as like 0.1 ETH, stake it without needing to even worry about sort of losing your principal. So that's really really cool and quite novel for us. So really keen to see how we can scale that up.
Awesome, Garen. Those are great news, and I think people from all over the world that are willing to participate in this kind of causes, they might actually be really happy to hear all this and to see all the different approaches to this angle. And that led us to the next question for Mariana Kotik from LACNet, so as to know, what do you envision the evolution of the blockchain ecosystem in light of models that integrate sustainability and technological innovation?
Well, as Gerben mentioned, times are changing, and donors are demanding a different thing, and organizations need different things and different resources also. So what I see is blockchain becoming an accountability layer for impact. In the future, I believe we will move from a model, from the current model to a model that relies more on backed and transparent, verifiable data on chain. And that shift can democratize access to funding for smaller organizations, and at the same time raise the overall standard for accountability across the ecosystem. I think we are moving from static reports based on the trust on a name or a brand or a group of people to on-chain impact records that anyone can check. So donors won't need to take our word for it. They'll be able to see the progress, see milestones and outcomes as they happen. So that builds trust, and I guess that's a need right now, because we need to keep supporting these great projects out there, and that can be made by innovation, like the project we are presenting and JD is presenting together with UNICEF and with Giga. So I guess LACNet model helps make that practical also, because our blockchain that is public permission, and it's open for everyone to read and to check and verify. So this transparency and integrity go hand in hand. So I guess because this regulatory compliance and combined with all the trust that blockchain can provide, and plus the low cost that we have in mind and we offer for our clients, that combination lets projects scale with clarity and without friction. So what I see in the future is changing and shifting for this kind of models. And so yeah, I guess that's what we can provide to for example, what I mean is that's why we see a natural complementarity with initiatives like Lido Impact Staking, because if we add this layer of on-chain impact registry to the projects funded through staking yields, we empower donors with stronger tools to trust that their contributions are not only transparent but also accountable. I guess that's the summary of everything I want to share.
Thank you, Mariana. Yes, thanks. I hope this answer actually shows how blockchain models have an impact in so many different contexts. And now, Gerben, if every NGO and donors in the world adopted blockchain-based impact funding, like let's say tomorrow, what would the world look like in 5 years?
Well, I think we'd obviously have like a lot more accountability. There'd be a lot more visibility as to sort of how funding has impact and how funds are spent. So I think that's probably the biggest part of it. We're at Giga. We're working on building a sort of Web3 pipeline for school connectivity. So, for example, we're creating also this platform where we put schools on chain as NFTs and then reference them regarding like related to funding, all in the effort to sort of put as much of our process on chain and traceable and accountable and transparent as possible. So that has to be the biggest impact, I think. That would in turn result in more donor confidence. Likely more funds mobilized. It becomes much more easy to invest in impact if it's fully traceable, and ultimately it will be much more sort of inclusive. It will be a more inclusive fundraising landscape. So you can imagine that a lot of small donors can also lead to big impact joined together. Yeah.
Thank you, Gerben. I think we all can agree that's an amazing future and an amazing perspective. And thank you for sharing. And Mariana Kotik, do you want to complement that answer? And also let us know if you see a future where governments or large institutions take their funds for social good and public blockchains, and what would it take to make that happen, you know?
Well, absolutely. I said, and I think the key is trust. Trust, transparency, and the opportunity that we are opening for traceability of these funds. I guess these actors are going to need strong guarantees that the infrastructure is reliable, that it complies with regulations, and most importantly, that the impact achieved can be transparently verified. I guess that's precisely the role we want to have, and provide these guarantees so more people can join and we can find support for all these great projects out there. I guess if you combine great solid projects with great impacts, with financial innovation like impact staking, and verifiable results on chain, you create a model that's not only scalable but also credible enough for the largest institutions to join and to support.
Thank you, Mariana. To all the the audience that is listening, that are from governments or different NGOs, I hope this message actually reaches you. And we truly appreciate your thoughts on this, Mariana. I would like to shift gears a little so as to ask Jaydeep, if you could steal one thing from traditional philanthropy, what would it be?
I think it would be the institutional audience. What I mean by that is that there are lots of reasons why the world's getting more complicated and more mixed. And what I mean by that is that the idea that the private sector sits in a silo without any environmental concern or concern for its employees and the social impact that inherently might be around its customers, its supply chains, they are. And so I think in terms of taking, what we would really love is the institutional stage to say, look, you can support funding social impact without giving your money away, right? That's a simple and compelling starting point. Like, really, can I? That sounds too good to be true. Well, it's not. And I think that isn't really only the function of where launch nodes have been building and what Lido Impact Staking is. It's the idea that there's yield that's available in lending markets like Aave that we want to connect to fund social impact. So the model is designed around a bit of a new world. I don't like saying, it's all about, some promised land in the future, but there is an inherent mix of this idea of, well, we want to nourish the ecosystem we're profiting in, and how do we do that whilst keeping the capital on our balance sheet so that we can fund it long term, right? These have never been addressed. The issue of, well, what if I give you $15 million tomorrow, but then next year we have a terrible year, we have to lay off people, and I don't have that money, and you're driving social impact with those funds, but we haven't created a sustainable mechanism for financing. And I think we're just one of the tools that's in that ecosystem. I see lots and lots coming up, but I really would love to take, some institutional givers by the hand and say, look, there's a new model. And to be fair to both Herb and Mariana, as institutions and big unilaterals, they've been really kind and supporting these sorts of initiatives by telling the institutions in their ecosystem and spreading the word. So I'm inherently an optimist. all entrepreneurs have to be. And so I think that that institutional adoption will come through our partners and walking this walk together.
Thank you, Gigi. When you were saying, well, you just said it sounds almost too good to be true. I think the audience, as well as me, might think it's still far away. So is it really far off, or how close do you see all this actually happening?
Well, I think that the nature of current funding for multilaterals, INGOs, is in a situation whereby it's really not increasing on the whole. It's decreasing, and so therefore we need new mechanisms. I think that's simply how I would answer that question. That we need new mechanisms, and that's why it's so relevant, and why you do need institutional adoption, because the current situation is that there's an enormous amount of work to be done in terms of social impact, climate, poverty alleviation, infrastructure, and once the money's gone, it's gone. Whereas in this model, if what we think is true, which is that Ethereum, Bitcoin, these networks represent new general purpose technologies, then as they grow, distributing the wealth or creating wealth through that opportunity that connects to different things, that seems inherently more sustainable. I don't know if that was a bit too long-winded, but
No, it's perfect. Thank you, Gigi, for sharing. And it actually really helps to set the stage for our final question. And I would like each one of you to answer briefly, and starting with you, Gerben, then Jaydeep, and closing with a highlight from Mariana Kotik. Gerben, what is the biggest opportunity and challenge for NGOs using blockchain impact models like Lido Impact Staking? And how will this shape the future of philanthropy?
So I think the biggest opportunity is around sustainability. These models that can sustain themselves are really sort of critical, especially when it comes to funding ongoing school connectivity and keeping children connected. So the second is around these more inclusive landscape, more inclusive funding landscape. So allowing more people to take part and to fund these projects. When it comes to challenges, I think there is a big one around regulation and letting these sorts of technologies operate in the free market and regulating that, and kind of like taking them off the sort of Wild West out of the Wild West area. The last challenge has to be around the sort of bad reputation that this whole industry gets. I think it probably ties in a little bit with why this isn't regulated and why this isn't sort of more accepted. But there's still a lot of bad press around cryptocurrency for good reason, and I think it really hurts experiments that want to use this technology for good. So yeah.
And Gerber, to move forward in regulation, which stakeholders do you think should be seated at the table, and why, so as to overcome this bad reputation? Who would you call to the table?
To address the bad reputation?
Yes, and to overcome this challenge around regulation.
Right. Well, I think to address the reputation thing, I mean, I think we should be telling these stories of impact actually helping. If you go to any of the blockchains and any of their founders and you ask them, so what is your blockchain actually used for? What does it do? Like, what does it serve? It's a tricky question to get like a good answer to often. So I think helping tell these stories is super important, and we should do more of that. When it comes to what was the other question? What was the other one?
Which stakeholders do you want to call to the table so as to move forward in regulation? Like if it was up to you, who would be there?
So I mean, this goes back to this presentation we had in Bogota, where everybody was saying, why is this so difficult? Let's just make this money and like spend it on school connectivity and call it a day. I think a lot of people in the crypto crowd kind of have this idea that maybe you don't need governments anymore for some of these things. But we certainly think that we do. In order to have like a big impact and to be able to do a lot globally, you need to work with governments. So for us, government parties are absolutely critical in having at the table. So we've been having conversations with like central banks, Ministry of Education, ministries of ICT, all to make it possible to use these kinds of funding streams. And our story is always the same: is the kind of products that we build are open source. The kind of tech that we're building is open source. And for us, blockchain is the logical next step in this sort of open source journey. If the technology is open source and for everybody, then we also we're essentially public goods, and we need to provide transparency also in how funds are spent. So that's where we're coming from.
Thank you, Gerben Kirchner from Giga-Unicef, and thanks for being with us today. And now, time for you to close the episode, Mariana Kotik, so as to know your thoughts about how would all this shape the future of philanthropy, and what is the biggest opportunity and challenges as well for NGOs using Lido Impact Staking or kind of blockchain impact models.
Well, I guess I would like to take a little bit, and of course, I'm on board with everything that has been mentioned before. I guess we still have a challenge ahead, as Gerben mentioned, regarding education about the potential of blockchain and how to change this idea probably that some people still have about the negative part of cryptocurrency and blockchain and crypto and things that although it sometimes you can think you understand why they can think that way, but at the same time, times are changing. We still see some bad actors out there, but are less and less, hopefully, and we can easily differentiate, or but see the difference between the good and the bad people out there. And what we need to build is trust. I guess that's the key: build trust for people to be ready to support this kind of initiatives, because innovation is the key, and institutions particularly are more they are used to do things their way, and we need to help them change their minds and help them innovate in how they support this kind of, because I guess they all have they want to help and they want to support these projects, and but they only see one way to do it, and we need to amplify the impact that these kind of projects are having in the space, so we can show them a different way to do it. And of course, that's regarding institutions, and of course to give them also the resources and the framework so they can do it. And I'm talking about regulation, I'm talking about compliance, I'm talking about what the things they need to move forward with this kind of projects. So I guess that's one thing, like how we build trust. And the other thing is keep it simple, because actually what we're offering here is a way so people can help with little effort, very little effort from their own homes. And so I guess it's an amazing it's an amazing initiative. And if more people can see the benefit of doing it this way, we can really help fundraising for this kind of projects. So I guess that's it on my side. And because I love this conversation, and I love all the things that came up during this conversation.
Yes, Mariana, me too. It was a really interesting conversation, and we're happy to bring actually CAFÉ LACChain as a space to highlight these use cases and to engage in meaningful conversations on important topics such as regulation and compliance. And just to know, Jaydeep, could you please share with us your final thoughts about what we've been talking around this episode?
Yeah, I think it's great to share a platform with LACNet and UNICEF and have them talk about their use of it, because we see Lido Impact Staking as a tool, one that's easy to use and that scales. So I think that's really great. I think that the adoption of other yield beyond staking yield, so looking at yield from lending markets like Aave is our next step, because right now you do have the crypto price risk, but if you use stable coins and take yield from that and distribute it to fund social impact, that goes away. So I think there's lots of evolution. It isn't finished and done. We've just started, and we're really excited. So if you're interested in this space, either using it to fund your social impact or to start on the path of trying it out as a mechanism. One of the great things about the GSR Foundation as an institutional donor or impact staker, they're really keen to open source the dialogue and the playbook that they've built to use this, so other institutions can join and walk with them and use the tool. So reach out.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you all three, JD, Mariana, and Gerben. Thank you for being with us today. And a big thank you to our audience for joining us. If you missed any of our previous episodes, don't hesitate to check them out on the LACChain YouTube channel. And be sure also to follow LACNet on social media so you don't miss all the content we'll be sharing on this and many other topics of interest. And thank you so much for being here, and see you next time. Thank you all.